Alright, so this is pretty much a breakdown of the car. SR20 swap. A couple people have asked me, so I figured I'd just make an entire video walking through the whole process of swapping an SR20 in it. And I'll show all the parts that I have on it, and I'll go under it and everything and show you what I did. So yeah, this is it. Pretty much a year later. But I'm gonna move it into the shop and go over it inside there, just in case the wind is messing up the sound here. Let me put this all the way up. Pretty much the CX Racing bottom mount 3071 ISR manifold, tuned front-facing manifold on 550cc injectors and a Z32 MAF, and a Nissan Quest alternator. And I'll break down the actual swap now. Alright, so now we're looking at the underside of the car, and I'm going to break down the swap as you see it, and I'll say every part that I got and everything that I fabricated or modified to make work with this. So the intercooler kit is an S14 with a Greddy style intake manifold kit that I pretty much got and modified. The pipes were kind of close, but some things just needed to be rotated a little bit. Like this one I rotated, I cut and I shortened and rotated to fit here and up there. The top pipe I cut and rotated as well and welded it. Same thing with this side. It's just small. I needed to shorten it a little bit and rotate it just so it can fit. But it pretty much, well, I mean, without all the other stuff, there's a lot of stuff that comes factory on the car that you probably have to get rid of just to do it. And I can't use the factory crash bar, but I will be making my own to make like a bumper support or like a better intercooler support that I want to do, because I got some tabs, top middle tab, and these two bottom arms holding it. And it's good for now, but I want something sturdier. As far as radiator, I used the factory radiator location and setup and fans. I'm still running the factory fans. Like during runs, it does get a little hot, but nothing crazy. It gets up to like 210 and then starts coming back down on the cool down. That's obviously like doing like a couple laps back to back. But yeah, need to upgrade fans because these are still the factory fans, so they're still a little weak. And I want to redo this piping. I want to do stainless just to make it look nice, but I should probably do aluminum for cooling purposes. So bottom side of the engine, don't judge my fabricating skills because this is the first time. I literally bought a welder just so I can do this, and I learned how to weld on this car. I made these little boxes to reach the bottom, to reach the subframe, and then I cut and angled the factory mount just so I could kind of line up with the bottom. This is slotted so I can move it. I need to move it a little bit further out. Same with this side, and then I need to angle the motor a little bit to the right because the way that it's sitting, it's still a little crooked. But yeah, not too bad. Bottom side, see all the turbo stuff. I still got room for AC compressor, and I still have the factory AC lines and AC everything down there. So eventually I'll be putting AC back in this car. As far as fuel, Well, I'll finish the mounts. I made this mount out of like pretty much L plates and the factory mount. And I used a stock mount as well. This transmission ended up fitting. I thought I needed to notch it to cut a little bit in here. I plated the bottom side just to give it a little more support, but it didn't need to be cut at all, actually. For an SR transmission, it'll fit really, really tight, but it'll fit and it lines up with the factory hole. So I just put a bar across to give it some extra support in the back side, and factory mount fits. All right, so fuel. This is a returnless system, so this car doesn't have a return line, and normally the fuel lines run through this side of the car. I ended up getting it away from the exhaust, tucking it all up under this side, because the factory SR side fuel stuff comes up to this side instead of this side. And then I pretty much tapped into the fuel sending unit and put a return line on it. It's pretty simple. You just gotta get a couple fittings and tie it down pretty well. But yeah, all AN line. I'm still running regular gas and I haven't had any issues yet. As far as exhaust, I ended up using the stock dump pipe, and then I cut it. Well, the factory, not a stock one, but factory one. I cut it, and then I ended up putting a flex pipe on it, and I did a V-band setup, and I did a 90. These are my beginner welding skills. Holler at me. This is ugly, don't look at that. So for the rest of the exhaust, I bought like a whole bunch of 3-inch stainless, which I need to do oval piping, but I had to, there's a lot of hammering and all that just to get it to fit. Not the best for exhaust flow, but it gets the job done. I pretty much bought for the rear, I bought like a $200 exhaust, because I needed to put mufflers on it because it was unbearable for a while. The exhaust ended like around here, and it was just really loud on 3-inch stainless. But it works. I mean, for the meantime, until I do something better about this, and then I could join it all nice. Drive shaft. I did a 1-piece drive shaft from, see right here, C&T, that I got recommended by some locals, and they did a really good job. I just need to extend it. I need to change the seal, but I think I need to extend it about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch. I want to remeasure and send it back, but it works just fine. The engagement is fine. Yeah. I'll go to the top side and break down the interior stuff a little bit more too, so you can see it. So on the top side, as far as things that I had to do, I had to get rid of the little pieces that were on spot welded on the firewall that hold the factory strut bracing, to clear it, because obviously it won't clear if they're there, the motor won't fit. Battery I kept in the same location with the tie down. Fuse box I kept in the same location. Didn't want to change that. I did delete the ABS module, but I kept the computer side. I got a block off plate from Andres in Miami, SR20DET Fr-s, with a 2J swap in his. He got these little plates made that actually block off all the mechanical portion of it, so it stays nice and clean and you can relocate it. Ideally, I want to relocate this into the interior of the car, but I got to extend that whole harness. I made my own brake lines and tapped into everything that I needed to. I still got to tie up everything a little nicer. As far as what else, there's a harness that runs back here that I ended up tucking into where the wipers are. I need to make it clear the wipers so that I can put the wiper unit back on. But I had it on before, it just fucked up some wires. As far as the wiring harness, it's Wiring Specialties. They make a plug and play kit for this car, and I went that way. I'd rather spend the money than spend months trying to make a harness. And as you can see, everything's plug and play. This goes into the firewall. You're supposed to use this hole, but I ended up making a new hole. I have the grommet for it, so I took the motor out and put it back in. I haven't put it on. As far as, let's see, the harness, everything plugs in down here. You got all the harness, plugs into the car. Everything still works normally. I wanted the car to run with the key. I didn't want to make anything complicated with a bunch of switches and relays and extra wires. I'd rather just keep the factory harness for the body and run it that way. You can see, get in here, it's on the lift, but I added my gauges. But as far as this, yeah, that was an ugly start. I think I fucked up the wire that sends the signal to the tach, which is why it's not working, but the speed and everything still works. The temp gauge still works, and it's pretty accurate. The fans kick on when they're supposed to. As far as steering, a lot of people have questions about the steering and that whole setup. There's a unit that they sell on eBay that costs $50 that you bypass your the signal from the car, from the speedo to the power steering ECU. I bought that and I put it on, and I'm pretty sure it throws a power steering light on because the car doesn't recognize your computer being plugged in. But if you're doing it for drifting, you can disconnect it and plug it back in just for an event. But I bypassed it to make the steering more responsive, because it does give that issue that the steering gets heavier when you're driving, when you're drifting, because of the speed or whatever, and the ABS computer, blah blah blah. So I bypassed that. It's $50. It took me 15 minutes to install it and tuck it away and make a hole right here just to mount my knob, and it works beautifully. And as far as the shifter location, you can see first gear, second gear, third gear, reverse. It fits pretty dang good. I still need to tilt the motor a little bit, which will help rotate this a tiny bit. But yeah, I mean, if there's something that I didn't cover on the car, gas pedal. I used a S13 gas pedal, and I got rid of the electronic. You can run the electronic gas pedal if you do a standalone computer. You can keep the electronic pedal and run it if you do standalone, get it tuned for it. But I wanted a very simple setup, even simpler than whatever came. I didn't want to do a standalone. I just had all the stuff already that I could use, and I didn't want to keep buying more parts. So I did do the S13 cable with the throttle pedal, and it is cable throttle body, and it works perfectly fine. You just got to make some stuff pretty much and mount it up, and you'll be good. There's the perfect hole for it. to run the throttle cable and everything. And it lines up with the rest of the pedals. So I'll show you right now. Yeah. See that? Sorry, the carpet's all fucked up and crooked and turned around. This car's dirty. Been driving it a couple events. I gotta take everything out and clean it. But yeah, that's the S13 pedal.